It is December 1st, and we are outside the Santa Clara Family Courthouse, which is home to the Midnight Cowboy Judge. And we're going to do a little short live stream about that. Everybody's busy down here because it's December 1st, so there's a lot of traffic. We have our best girl, Peppy, who thought she was going for a walk and instead ended up back at the courthouse. I'm going to wait and see if anybody comes in. We have lots of full battery. And it is 7 o'clock on Monday, December 1st in 2025. And this is a case that I have worked since 2020. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you here. How's the sound? Have my microphone. See? Got a green light. So I do want to tell you that somebody left a comment about me still not being able to get this live stream in the horizontal mode when I'm live streaming. And I tried like the Dickens. I looked it up on YouTube. I practiced ahead of this. I turned it on private, and I still am a no-go on that. So maybe I'm going to see San Joaquin Valley Transparency later this month, and he can help me out. So a lot of times when we're reporting on family court, we don't always tell you the end of the story. And today is going to be the end of the story case. So I thought I'm down here in my winter coat. And for all of you guys who are in the Midwest, I just want to let you know it is 50 degrees out here. And in California, we think that is an Arctic freeze. So I'm going to turn my camera around because Puppy's giving me a little tangling problem again tonight. And I want to be able to tell you very clearly about the Midnight Cowboy Judge. So in 2020, I had a case brought to my attention. And it was a case that had started back in 2012. We're turning again because Peppy is turning. By the way, I just want to thank the very nice person who had a puppy appetizer play date, and I got some of the best potato leek soup. It's freezing out here. We were eating outside, and the soup was super hot. The waitress was great. It was in downtown Los Gatos, and the Christmas lights were going up. And we're not used to it being this cold out here. And so that was a really nice treat. And I just want to give a shout out and a thank you for that. So in 2020, we were all the courts were shut down. This is Santa Clara County, and it was not like the rest of the world back then. So that meant if you had to come to court for any issue, and I don't know if Adam sent me a video today about two women trying to go to the court to report some issues where they were directed, and ICE picked them up. And I thought that was an interesting case that now we have ICE going to our courthouses. So, especially when people are being directed by the police to go to the courthouses. So, back in 2020, this nurse contacted me about a case that took place up there on the 7th floor in Judge James Towery's courtroom. And if you go to my community posts on this channel and you take a look at that post, I posted the order because I'm always going to back up everything that I tell you guys so that you can see. And somebody had an idea that we might work on getting an app or something. So if you are interested in the court documents, you're interested in following along, you're interested in how it might apply to you or your family, I think that doing something so you can follow these cases along, and I'll post more of the documents from this case. But this case is actually one of the worst cases that I've ever seen. It involves a minors counsel. It involves Judge James Towery. It involves the Santa Clara County District Attorney, and it involves an attorney by the name of Constance Carpenter. And that case took place starting in 2012 with an arrest by a Los Gatos police officer. So even though Los Gatos makes terrific potato leek soup on December 1st, we still have a problem with police officers and how they're writing police reports. And back in 2012, that was a year before Judge Towery was asking to do ride-alongs with the Los Gatos police. So if you're following my work, it might seem a little bit chaotic because we're talking about about news gathering, and that's not always linear. It's not something that coders do. It's chaotic. And whoever just said grumpy guy 8102, you followed me since meeting the First Amendment auditors at the courthouse. I want to thank everybody here who has been with me since then. When I met them in 2019, I had 68 subscribers, and we just hit 73,000 subscribers, and I am determined to try to get us to 100,000 by the end of the year. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to do a series of live stream shorts and videos, and all of them are going to be pulled together so that we explain what it is we've been investigating and why it affects you. So, back in 2012, there was a young woman who came to America with her then new husband. She came from the Philippines, and he was with the Mormon church, and he had been on his Mormon mission when he met her, and he got a dowry from her farmer family. He got a dowry, and he brought her back to America with her son, who was not his biological son. It was the son of another man from the Philippines. And they came here, and she was forced to live in a camper in Los Gatos, and just down the block from a very fancy golf course. And the family made her work at the golf course to pay rent for the camper and to pay for food and that she had to cook in the camper and to pay for her son. So in 2012, she was working at the golf course. She was a waitress at the golf course, and her then husband was kind of useless. He worked at Barnes and Noble a couple of hours a week, but he didn't do much else. And so when she came home, he was playing video games with her son, and she was upset because she really wanted to make sure that her son got a decent education. And so they got into an altercation, and his brother was there in the house, and a neighbor called the police. Los Gatos police showed up. And so that's okay, David. 9811. If you just arrived, you can go back and hear the beginning. We were talking about Los Gatos and my potato leek soup tonight. You didn't miss a lot. We're on a 2012 arrest from the Los Gatos police, and we're going to get to the Midnight Cowboy judge and the order from the Midnight Cowboy judge showing that he set a hearing at midnight is in my community post section. So the Los Gatos police came, and they interviewed the husband, the brother, and the wife. The child was there during the whole time. And the Los Gatos police made the shot call to arrest the mother. They called her the dominant aggressor. So this woman was being rather taken advantage of, to say the least. And there were some other things going on in that camper that we'll get to in a little bit. And they arrested her, and they took her to jail. And while she was in jail, the chaplain for the Mormon church, I can't remember his name. I think it was Mr. Mackey. He came in, and he will watch the train go. They've got that all decorated. And Mr. Mackey came in to the jail, got her out, got her bailed out, and got her an attorney, because by then her husband had filed for divorce. And so she ended up in the old courthouse because this courthouse wasn't built yet. And her divorce was pretty shocking. She hired Jason Pintar, who is also Mormon. He does a lot of probate law, but he's also a family law attorney. And the case was pretty shocking. And it ended up getting settled, and she gave 50% custody to the father, who was not the child's actual biological father. And things were going along swimmingly until she filed a police report of her own and took some issues to the Santa Clara County District Attorney. And by then it was 2017. And we all talk a lot about don't report to the police, don't call the police, but we don't talk enough about district attorneys and how going to them is really one of the riskiest things you can ever do. People go to a district attorney thinking that the law works the way that it does. And there's so much cronyism, politics, and corruption with district attorneys, especially here in Santa Clara County, where Jeff Rosen has been in office all this time, that it's really a crapshoot. And we find that more often than not, people reporting any serious issues to the district attorney end up being retaliated against in that family courthouse. So I'm going to tell you what that looked like. So the mother in this case somehow got put on supervised visitation. And that's where a third party is paid to monitor your interactions with the child. So, with her own biological child, she was on supervised visitation. Her ex husband then gets arrested, and this is in 2017. And so the Me Too movement was kind of starting at the time. And Jeff Rosen was trying to claim that he was the big supporter for women's issues because the Me Too movement, if you have forgotten, there were all anybody had to do was make an allegation against a powerful man and they were losing their career. It didn't matter if they were in the media, if they were in politics, it didn't matter. They were losing their career. And that was a movement that just kind of started after the 2016 election when Donald Trump was first elected, and it swept in a way that didn't really make any sense. So during the Me Too movement, Jeff Rosen was getting all kinds of media coverage because he was prosecuting a young Stanford student by the name of Brock Turner. And that was really all his office could do. They were giddy with the media attention that that case was bringing. And that was a case presided over by Judge Persky. And eventually that led to Judge Persky being recalled. So during that time, when all the attention was on that case, this woman's charges against her ex husband resulted in him being criminally prosecuted and put in the jail. But while he was in the jail, whoever said, beware, Susan's going to knock on your door if you're a private judge, this week we are knocking on all the doors. I think you'll like our live streams and our videos this week. So while he was in jail, the mother, so this is non-bio dad, his name was Jason, and he is in jail facing felony charges in 2017. And that was during Jeff Rosen's election campaign because he was campaigning from 2017 to 2018. The Me Too movement was sweeping. Thanks for the gift, Daves. I really appreciate it. And as it was sweeping, Jason was sitting in jail. And Jeff Rosen then won the election on June 5th, 2018. And Judge Persky, returning again because Puppy's once again tangled up. She really wants to walk. I'm going to walk if it's not too bumpy. If it's too bumpy, you guys can tell me, but we'll walk around to the back door. I really hope I have some moderators in here too. It looks like a couple of comments are getting held for review. We always get those trolls in here. So we're going to walk Puppy around to the back door. And I hope our moderators are coming in. I'm going to switch arms with the leash. And whoever made a comment about me getting tangled up in the leash and while I'm doing these live streams and not being able to record horizontally. Yeah, that's true. I tried to fix it. I'm 61 years old and we haven't figured that out yet. So, whoever said my comment, I don't know what that's about. I'm just talking about, it looks on my screen that there's a lot of comments for review. And so Jason was sitting in jail facing felony charges for abuse, pretty serious allegations. And I'll put that complaint up in my section a little bit later. And that was happening during the Me Too movement. And so while that was happening, the election for Jeff Rosen was happening. The recall for Judge Persky was happening. The Me Too movement, everybody was mad about Donald Trump being president. And then all of a sudden, Jeff Rosen won re-election. Hey, whoever, Leggerlo, I really appreciate that you do that every time I'm in a live stream. You have no idea how much I appreciate that. And so Jeff Rosen is running for re-election, and oh, by the way, this is the back door to the courthouse where the staff and the judges typically come out. So when I'm trying to kind of ambush interview somebody, I might wait sometimes out here and see if I can catch somebody if I have some questions and they're not going to answer them the other way. And so Jeff Rosen won his reelection. He didn't have anyone opposing him. Judge Persky was recalled. Judge Cindy Hendrickson was elected to the bench on that June 5th, 2018 election campaign. It was one of the largest voter turnouts in Santa Clara County. It cost taxpayers millions of dollars because it was a recall of a judge, and we had not recalled a judge in California in over 80 years. And as soon as that election was done and Jeff Rosen felt like the women were no longer a threat to his political career, he let Jason out of jail, just dropped all the charges, very serious charges. And we know that this district attorney has constantly made political prosecutions, but he is not prosecuting child abuse. He's not prosecuting DV. He's not prosecuting fraud. And if it is connected to family court, it's really not getting prosecuted. By the way, in this new $283 million courthouse, they put in this area here, and this is where individuals come when they're bussed in from the jail. Now, our old family courthouse in Sunnyvale didn't have this kind of jail security arresting people, and it's almost like screaming, welcome to family court, somebody's going to get arrested. It's very disturbing when they built this courthouse, about just how you see the changes going into place in family court. Peppy thinks we're on our midnight walk, and we're not. We're talking about the midnight judge. And so as soon as Jason was let out of jail, his attorney, Constance Carpenter, along with minors counsel Morris Bitz, oh, and the whole time Jason was in jail, by the way, the mother was on supervised visits, and Jason's brother was in charge of her child. So this is non-bio dad's brother, who nobody knows anything about, is in charge of this kid who is not the dad's kid. The family doesn't even really like the kid, and he's in charge of the kid, and the mom is on paid supervised visitation, which means she has to pay $75 or $100 an hour to see her kid. And her child support had to continue to be paid to Jason's brother. I can't remember Jason's brother's name, but that's important in a minute. And so as soon as Jason gets out of jail, they file what is known as an ex parte. And an ex parte means they're asking the court to urgently decide something. So this guy had been sitting in jail for months. The Me Too movement is going around, and Jason's in jail. And all of a sudden, this ex parte is filed that there's this sudden emergency, and they want to flip custody. The mom doesn't even have custody. She's on supervised visits, paying to see her kid and have somebody monitor their interactions. And meanwhile, nobody's monitoring the brother. And so Constance Carpenter files an ex parte. Morris Bissett is in on it with the minors counsel, which, whenever you wonder what the hell a minors counsel is doing that taxpayers are paying for, this case illustrates exactly why we should be questioning that. Because when the parents can't afford to pay for minors counsel, we pay for it. That means our tax dollars are paying for children to have attorneys because their parents are involved in a divorce or a custody case. So, John Denicola, I'm glad you're in here. Can you please moderate? I think if Johnny Bravo's in here too, if you guys could just watch the trolls and kind of hit the comments for me, I'd appreciate it. So, the ex parte is filed to flip custody and also to get a restraining order against the mother. And what they were saying is that her reporting the claims that the district attorney took up and prosecuted was domestic abuse. And for that reason, they stripped the mother of custody. She lost complete custody of her son. She had to pay obscene amounts of child support. She got naturalized. She became an American citizen. She worked in tech as a clerk, and she paid all of her money. She lived very impoverishedly because it's very expensive to live here. And she paid all of her money to child support to this Jason Legresi, who wasn't the bio dad. And then all of a sudden, they also filed a motion to move the child to Hawaii. And Morris Bissett was minors counsel. The child was allowed to move to Hawaii, where there's a big Mormon church congregation and population. And they moved this kid to Hawaii while his mom was here working to pay the child support. Now, and I will say that I know that men have typically been really burdened by child support, but That is no longer a gender issue. It can happen to either parent. This total custody flip, minors counsel are usually involved. And so the kid moves off to Hawaii. No one's now monitoring this kid. And whoever said kids for profit, that's exactly it. And, kids for profit was the issue of judges owning interest in private jails, and they were sending kids to juvie when those kids really just were tardy for school or had done really petty things that back in the day we would have just let that go. And now, private prisons put a big pull on that, just like private judging. Oops, puppy's pulling on my camera, sorry. And so Jason Legrassi moves to Hawaii. The minors counsel, who is supposed to be acting in the kid's best interests, puppy's interested in this, um, the minors counsel never checks on the kid. He doesn't get enrolled in school. He moves just before high school, never enrolled in school, never naturalized, never becomes a citizen because his mom's name is on the passport and the dad's name is not, it's not his real dad. So he's not on the passport. And the kid is over in Hawaii. And when we talk about immigration, this kid never went to high school, never got educated, can't have a job, is not an American citizen. And the mom ended up going to work for a court system in another state. And she tried like the Dickens to get her own kid deported and never could. And she didn't see her kid again at all. And then Jason tried to, you want to record my feet? Oh, yeah, because I can't go on the court property. So there's my feet. Puppy's going back and forth. Whoever says record your feet and where I'm standing. John, there you go. See, I'm not crossing the line. I know they've got to look at Puppy. She's even trained to stay on that line too. Look, she's afraid of Judge Emity's no crossing the line and no public recording on the courthouse property. Thanks, John Denicola, for doing that. Oh, and by the way, I do have my really warm boots on because I am a wuss about the cold. I've got my down coat on and I am freezing. So, the child then turns 18, and guess what? He can't get on an airplane because you have to have a real ID. He can't get a job because you have to have an ID and an education, and he doesn't have that. So, family court Judge James Towery and that midnight Cowboy order, he actually set a hearing at midnight, not 12 o'clock and getting the AM PM messed up. He wrote in that order midnight. And I, you know, I went crazy about that order. And one of the little rules that I have is when people call me up and show me some outrageous order or some violation of the law, due process, and they say they can't do that, I have a rule: you owe me $1. So if any of you are listening to this and you're thinking yourselves they can't do that, you can please Venmo me or PayPal me, or you can pop that dollar in the mail. My post office box is always listed in my other longer videos. But that he actually wrote in that order that that hearing was set for midnight. So it is 7:19 on a Monday night, December 1st, 2025. And you tell me if you think family court is operating here in this courthouse. And if it is, nothing good is happening in that courthouse. This is a family court proceeding, and Judge Towery set that order at midnight. There are things that scream corruption, and that screamed corruption to me. I just had never seen that midnight. So we nicknamed him. At some point, it becomes so outrageous, and outrageous government conduct is an issue. And it's actually a legal defense for getting cases dropped and getting charges against the government. And setting a midnight hearing in a family court case for a family law judge who was on the bench for a decade longer than he should have ever been on the bench is just outrageous. And so we nicknamed him the Midnight Cowboy Judge after we found that order. But I want to tell you that for as horrific as this case was, and I can put up some of my video of how I investigated it, and I'll do that in a longer. I think I'm going to do that for some of my members. So for those of you who are members here and you want to see some of my more in-depth investigations that might be more of a detail, right? Right now, by the way, we have 77 people watching, and that was the department number for Judge James Towery, the midnight cowboy judge up there in Department 77. And so, I will do some of those. I'm gonna put members only on some of those. I really appreciate my members, and you've supported this channel on the climb up to over 73,000 subscribers. You give me all kinds of support in these live streams, and I'm trying to show you how I do my work, and I'm trying to explain to you how our courts, local government, and police work. And so this case started from one bad police report. I read it. It was poorly written. This was a Los Gatos police officer who wrote that report in 2012. The Los Gatos Police Department allowed James Towery to do ride alongs while he was hearing cases such as this one, because Jason's divorce case was in this courthouse starting in 2012. And it went all the way up until last year. The attorney slowly dropped out of the case. There was another minors counsel appointed. Nobody ever checked on the kid's grades or school or medical. He has a rash all over his body. The dad tries to blame it on the mom. The mom did fly to Hawaii to try to reconnect with her son, but he had just been so alienated and brainwashed by whatever Jason had been telling him all those years. We call him the fake dad because he wasn't the biological dad. He didn't hold him out as his son. He just played video games with him and kind of kept him hostage, and you can draw whatever conclusions you want from that. Thanks, Johnny Bravo. I appreciate it. And I think, again, Johnny Bravo and John Denicola, I appreciate you guys moderating. I appreciate the memberships. And a lot of you have lately been letting me know when you hype these videos, that apparently is helping with the YouTube algorithms. And so we have 31 days in the month of December, and we're going to try to climb to 100,000 views, because subscribers. And all of you who are members here and that come into these live streams, you make that happen. So I appreciate that. So I promised you a happy ending, and the happy ending, not that kind of happy ending, but the other kind. I don't think that you can ever say that there's a happy ending on any family court case. The happy endings are when a family court judge doesn't drag in minors counsel appointments, doesn't work for private judging, and when the attorneys stick up for due process, whether it's for their own clients or just the overall legal system. And one of the things that was interesting was that this mom kept paying child support after all the attorneys dropped off, and he's living in Hawaii. Thank you, Johnny. I really, really appreciate it. Johnny just gave us one more gift membership, and I am going to start doing stuff this month for all of my members, so that I just show my appreciation to all of you. And so we've got the kid. His name is Ian, by the way. He is living in Hawaii. And I'm making this video tonight because I have another source whose daughter is kind of going through some of these similar issues with family court and doesn't understand what's going on in the courts. This doesn't make sense to our kids. And I have kids reaching out to me all the time, and they're watching this channel, and their parents who aren't allowed to see them are sending this to them. And so if I can be a voice to let our kids know what's going on, I'm going to keep doing this, because it's really a problem. And what I have seen, I do what I do because what I have seen. Thank you very much, Sevenfold 777. I always appreciate you being here very, very much. Oh, let me see if I could like that. Oh, I did. I liked it. Did you see that? I'm multitasking right now. And so here's the happy news about this case. I found it in 2020, and what was interesting is this was during COVID when everything was locked down. And if you go back through my old videos, the nurse, Corrigan, she was going with me to all the private judge offices here and in LA. And what we were doing is she would work the night shift in a COVID unit in a hospital, and she was seeing some pretty horrific things. And then she would get off work, and she was kind of a badass. We would go to lawyers' offices all day long and investigate the private judging. So when you see my old videos in LA, and you see the video we took right over there when we went to BJ Fathom's offices and all the other offices, because she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Rich Rosia yelling at a nurse, telling him he's going to sick their dogs on him when he's not following the law. I mean, that's what we were seeing. And it's really hard to explain in video what we're seeing. And so my heart went out to this woman because for two reasons. One, we were in the same courtroom when my divorce was going on. And I vaguely remember hearing her story and trying to reach out to her, but I think she was just so traumatized. And there is a difference between cases I cover where there are drama mamas and traumatized people. And this woman was definitely traumatized. She was not about drama. She was working, she was paying child support, she got her citizenship, and she endured things in family court that you can't even imagine. A midnight hearing, Judge James Towery, the midnight cowboy judge. I mean, can you just even imagine him having the audacity to write that and then getting away with it? Nobody did anything about it. All the presiding judges, they just kept giving him he got judge of the lifetime when he retired, and he did retire right when I started reporting on his little underground bar bench media police. But I did meet her up in that courtroom, I recall, after I started hearing about her case. And here, Peppy is having a tangle problem again. And when I did, I tried to give her my card, and she, we had a little bit of a language barrier. And by the way, I want to say this woman taught herself English, and she learned very quickly. She passed her test. Um, I can't, it's difficult enough going through family court in English. I can't even imagine how you would do it self represented in a second language. And this court never has interpreters. Now we don't have court reporters. I mean, the amount of money that is being spent on, just look at the electricity, the landscaping. Oh, and by the way, here, Johnny Denicola, this is for you. And I can't cross this line without violating Judge Emity's ridiculous unconstitutional order. Well, I don't have time to fight that right now. We have too many stories to tell, and we're going to keep telling them because Judge Emity has been in this court the entire time this has been going on, and she's issuing orders that are just absolutely unconstitutional and prior restraint on speech. And she knew about things like Judge James Towery. She knew what was happening to these people. And if you know and you're getting complaints, and by the way, in my last video, we talked about Sherry the Shredder shredding complaints about unfairness in the court. That's what they do. It goes in the circular file. Everyone ignores it, and then they go out for their free lunches. And I'm going to keep talking about this. So, here's the happy part about this case. After watching what that woman survived, I got a call a couple weeks ago from a DOJ investigator. And this woman has now graduated from a branch of military, and I'm not going to say which branch, but she is now working for the federal government, and she will be in a position where hopefully she can work on, seeing some justice for people who have been through what she's been through. And that's what we call surviving, not drama. It's not about immigration. It's not about gender. It's purely about politics, corruption, and surviving it is not always easy. And so I'm really, really proud of her. I got some pictures. I don't want to share it because I don't want to compromise where she is working. I answered the investigators' questions. And when the issue of her ever being arrested came up, I was honest. I shared the police report. I gave my opinion. I talked about my reporting, and she had done the same. And I think we have to start talking about all these parents getting arrested, and then the people who are being prosecuted for serious crimes, the DA just dropping the case. And I'm going to start really focusing in on Mr. Jeff Rosen because he's up for reelection again. This time he has an opponent, and it's time to get dirty DAs out of office. We not only did this woman kind of turn her life around, but after we started reporting on what Judge James Towery was doing, including his midnight orders, he retired in 2023. And a retirement is not really a win for me. I would like to see indictments. I would like to see corrupt judges indicted. And we just have not indicted any judges in this county in the last 25 years. So, with all of your help, if we get to 100,000 subscribers, that's better than any local newspaper. And then when we have a midnight cowboy judge holding midnight hearings in cases and taking people's kids away from them, maybe we can get to some indictments. So thank you, everybody. Thank you to our moderators. Thank you for everybody for the support. and look for our videos this week, because I know it seems chaotic, but I'm going to try to come into these lives and share these kind of stories with you so you understand what I'm seeing. And in the daytime, we're going to go knocking on the doors of some private judges and see if they're following the law. And we're also going to do some reporting on local government in Los Gatos and in San Jose. And spoiler alert, we are informed that the San Jose Police Department, that has been trained by Women SV, is not prosecuting, or is selectively prosecuting, those DVROs, and only taking certain firearms away from certain individuals and not well connected ones. So we're going to talk about that too. And we're going to talk about my least favorite attorney. And if you don't know her name by now, let me remind you, that would be Nicole Ford, who is trying to get me arrested for coming to courthouses if she's near here. She has a restraining order against me, and we're going to be taking that issue to federal court once we get this platform up and rolling a little bit more. And hopefully, oh, by the way, Judge James Towery, our Midnight Cowboy judge, appointed Nicole Ford in 140 minors counsel cases. So when you think about the story I just told you about Morris Bissett, imagine somebody like Nicole Ford or all the other minors counsel, and you just imagine how many kids have been harmed by these attorneys, and your taxpayer dollars often goes to pay for it. So we're going to keep going. We're going to keep on local reporting. I don't cover state and I don't cover national issues. There's just not enough time in the day. And we're going to keep going on local reporting. And I hope this will encourage all of you to pick up your cameras and record your local government. Thanks, everyone. December 1st, 2020. And I appreciate all of you coming in tonight.